Awesome. So hi everyone, welcome to this webinar of the Canadian Wildlife Federation. My name is Annie. I am the Hinterland Who's Who coordinator for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. And so we're going to talk about the great horned owl today. I'm also a biologist, so if you have any questions, don't hesitate. It would be awesome to see your questions either on the chat here, or you can ask them live to me using your microphone and webcam at the end of the presentation. I'll also give you my email if you have any questions afterwards. So the great horned owl. We know this guy quite a bit. He's quite common. This is what he looks like. I also have a sound clip that I'll play for you right now because often, because he's out at nighttime, we don't necessarily see him, but we do hear him. So just wait for a bit. I will play this for you. I'll play it again. I hope everyone heard that. I will put the presentation back. Basically, what you just heard are territorial vocalizations. So owls will make these sounds to warn other owls that this is their territory. And the higher voice, the higher pitched vocalization that you guys heard was actually the female, and the lower is the male. So I'm pretty sure most of you, or at least a good quantity of you, have heard this before at night. So the great horned owl. It's one of Canada's largest birds of prey. The only larger one that we have is the snowy owl. So as for most birds of prey, the female is actually larger than the male. So we're talking about a weight of 2 kilograms for the male and 2 kilograms for the female and 1.5 for the male. A snowy owl will go to about 3 kilograms, for example. The wingspan, so the length that's between one end of the wing way till the other, is about 1.2 meters. So the great horned owl, why is it called the great horned owl? It has large and prominent ear tufts or horns on its head, as you can see in the lower picture. Scientists actually don't really know why they have this. Those aren't their ears or horns at all. They're just basically feathers that are sticking out of their heads. And again, we don't really know why they have this at all. So the great horned owl has really big yellow eyes that are set right in front of its face. Like most predators, actually, they almost always have eyes that are directly in front of their faces, like the great horned owl here. He also has a curved beak and very sharp claws and long fluffy feathers. So as you can see, coloration is grayish or brownish that it's mottled. Different subspecies, so different groups of great horned owl can have different colorations. So for example, you can have very dark ones in British Columbia and Labrador, and in the Northwest Territories, or in Northern Canada in general, they're much paler. They also have feathered legs and feet, and that includes great horned owls that live way out in the south or in the deserts, so they all have this. And so the great horned owl is found pretty much everywhere in America. So it's found in North, Central, and South America. So the zone on the Americas on the map here that is yellow. So it's very, very common actually. Um, but they aren't found on islands. As you can see, like in the Caribbean islands, for example, they're not there. They're also not on the Queen Charlotte Islands off the coast of British Columbia. There are more than 20 different subspecies of great horned owls. What does the word subspecies mean? It's basically groups of owls that live in different areas, have different habitats, so they're a bit different physically, but they're still the same species. So they can be of different colors, they can be of different sizes a bit, and it all depends on where they live. So great horned owls don't migrate. They stick around the same territories year round because they can find food year round in the same areas. And they're not found in Europe or in Asia or in Africa, but they have a close relative called the eagle owl that looks quite similar to them. But they're not found there at all. They're basically an American bird. So the great horned owl is a cosmopolitan. It lives in many, many different types of habitats. You can find them in deciduous or mixed forests, so basically the forests that are found in southeastern Canada. Um, they can be found in the boreal forest, so in the middle of Canada and the northern Canada as well, in wetlands, in deserts as well, in the Arctic and alpine tundra, and in tropical and coastal rainforests, but also in cities, suburbs, and parks. So it's one of the owls that you might see around your home or that you might hear at night in your local park. So it's really now an owl that has adapted to many, many types of habitats and that is quite flexible in where he chooses to live. So the great horned owl is a predator. It eat it eats only meat. It's purely a carnivore, so you will never see an owl eat berries, for example. But what does it eat exactly? Um, they can eat a great variety of things. So shrews, mice, rabbits, hares, frogs, even snakes, even songbirds, other owls, skunks, geese, raccoons. So they eat a wide variety of things. Some even eat scorpions out in the deserts. That's pretty cool. So, but generally speaking, here in Canada, they do prefer medium-sized, average-sized mammals and birds. So lots of hares or rabbits, for example. For example. So when mice or voles, for example, are abundant, so when the years that there are more of these rodents around, owls will just eat a whole lot of them. And so their populations, the owls' populations, can become much larger on those years. So the great horned owl, it hunts only at night. It's mainly actually active at night. And it has an excellent night vision and excellent hearing as well. For example, in the winter, they can hear prey scurrying just down in the snow quite easily. It has specialized feathers that make it super silent. So when it flies, a bit like the snowy owl, they make no sound at all. So their prey won't hear them coming. And so it's one of the adaptations they have to be more successful at hunting. It also hunts very quickly. It dives down on its prey very quickly and use their talons or claws that you can see in the middle picture there to seize their prey. When it gets a small prey, it will just swallow it whole. But for larger prey, it will take the owl will take the prey apart before eating it. And so one of the things you can spot owls by when you're just walking in the woods is by spotting owl pellets. What are they? That's what in the bottom picture there. So basically, Stuff from the prey that can't be digested, so bones and fur and feathers and teeth, they just get compacted in the owl's stomach and they will regurgitate. So it will come out back from its mouth and they will digest the rest of their prey. So if you see some of those, it's a sign that owls have been nearby. Also in the wintertime, you can often see owl prints in the snow. So basically, when owls spot a prey, they will dive down, catch the prey, and leave prints of their wings in the snow. So that's another sign of the presence of owls. So what about breeding? Great horned owls become mature at around 2 years old. Sometimes it can happen a bit quicker. So when an owl is healthy and it lives in an environment with lots of prey, sometimes it can reproduce a bit earlier than that. They will not waste much time to build nests. They will often adopt a nest that's been abandoned, so a crow or a raven nest or a red-tailed hawk nest. Um, but they can only use it really for 1 year because at the end of the nesting season, the baby owls will have trampled the nest down and it's really not usable again. In areas where there's very little trees, so up in the mountains or up in the tundra, they will use a rocky ledge where they can just nest. Um, and as you can see in the bottom picture, this owl has just used a metal tub that's been put in the tree, so they're a bit lazy nesters. Um, and it is thought, but we're not 100% sure, that great horned owls mate for life. So when they find a mate, they stay with them for their whole lives and they stay in the same territory and they will both defend that territory. So great horned owls are about the earliest nesters that we have. So even when there's still snow outside, like here in Ottawa, they will have started to nest. So they will lay their eggs really, really early compared to other species of birds. So egg laying and nesting well underway before the snow melts, and they will lay their eggs. They will care for their eggs for about 1 month. For example, in Alberta, hatching happens from mid-April to early May. So we're about a month away from that. So they will start to nest at this time period in Alberta. So 1 to 5 eggs are laid in a clutch. And when food is scarce, so when there's very little food around, they will just have 1 egg. When they're super healthy and have a lot of food, they will lay as many as 5 eggs. So young owls grow up really quickly. They're fully feathered and able to fly at about 8 weeks old. And they remain with their parents for the whole summer until the fall, so they can learn some hunting skills so they can survive afterwards. But not a lot of baby owls make it. So nestlings, hatchlings can be preyed upon by hawks and other predators. Sometimes also they fall from the nest. There can be storms that push them out of the nest. And so while they still remain in the nest, there are some dangers for baby owls. And also after that, when they leave the nest at the end of the summer, in their first year, because they're still actually learning, about half of them don't make it. But when they do make it, owls will normally remain in the same area where they're born. So 90% of them will stay within the same general area. Of course, they won't stay in the same territory than their parents, but they will stay close by. So here you can see little baby owls that are probably a few months old, maybe 2 to 3 month old. See there, they're feathered. These guys can probably fly because they have some flight feathers on their wings, but that's basically how they look. So they look like baby, really tufty, poofy little things. So cool things about the great horned owl. It's really a fascinating bird. They have very few natural enemies as adults. So they're predators, they're quite fierce, but sometimes when they attack a much larger prey, they can get injured and even die from that attack. You can find often owls that are full of porcupine quills, for example, are owls that reek of skunk. So some of them might try to catch a skunk, but it attacks them in return. Um, so stuff can happen to them while they're hunting if they go for a much larger prey. Also, they tend to go for baby crows or magpies. So often you will see crows or magpies um, harassing them during the day. So when they're just trying to sleep their day, they will have crows or other birds harassing them to scare them away, which really doesn't work very well. So about their eyes, they're very large eyes. As I said, their eyes are positioned right in front of their faces. And owls can't really move their eyes so much, but they can actually turn their heads. Actually, that's my next point. They can turn their heads for more than 180 degrees. You can't really turn their heads all the way around, but almost. And so, since their eyes can't swivel, so that helps them look around. And also their pupils, so the black dot in their eyes opens up wide, and that enables them to see really well in the dark. So it helps night vision. Other cool facts here. So they have facial discs. Around their eyes, you can see there's kind of like a semicircle of white feathers. And so those are facial discs. And what are those for? Basically, it directs sound to their ears. And so owls have really good hearing, as I said, but their ears aren't like ours. They're basically inside their feathers. The feathers are really thick, in great horned owls. If you put your finger on an owl's face, you can have feathers for like covering all your finger until you actually touch their skin. So the ears would be probably like behind their eyes, but they're not actually at the same height, both of them. They have one ear that's higher and one ear that's lower. That actually helps them spot exactly where a prey is using their ears. And so those facial discs around their eyes helps direct sound to their ears. So I was saying that great horned owls have territories, and those are about 8 to 10 kilometers squared. Some of them have much smaller territories in areas where there's a lot of food. They can share territories like that, but they will protect that piece of land from intruders and from possible predators. Um, and both mates will do that, both male and female. But when they're not nesting, the male and the female don't actually stay together. They stay in the same territory, but they're not together. They only come together while they're nesting. So the call that we listened to initially was their territorial call, basically, as I was saying. They use that call to tell other owls to not come over, but they have a lot of different vocalizations for lots of different behaviors. So what you've heard is possibly the most common one that we might hear, but they make a lot of different sounds, and those sounds are linked to a variety of different behaviors. And great horned owls have been known to live up to about 28 years. So that's quite old for birds. So for more information about the great horned owl, we have a full fact sheet on Hinterland Who's Who. That's hww.ca. If you find that you have other questions when the presentation is over, you can always email me. My email is right here. And you can find out more about our webinars here at the address that's indicated here. So, do you guys have any questions today? And again, you can type them out in the chat or use your microphone and camera to ask them to me, no problem.
Annie, you mentioned in the beginning that they didn't live on islands. How come?
I've read some research that says that these owls are prone to finding new territory per se. I think they're pretty much at the limit in terms of the area they can inhabit. Possibly they would be scared of expanses of water, for example. But other species of owls have crossed these the water to go on islands, but not this one. Um, it's possibly for a variety of reasons, but they perhaps they can't adapt to that flight. Um, and again, they stay really close to where they're born, so it probably wouldn't make much sense to go much further or to cross a body of water to get to a new habitat, really.
Hmm. Seeing the people from Edmonton, I would think they might be familiar with the great horned owl because I believe it's their provincial bird.
Yes, I believe so as well. Hi, Sarah from Vancouver. I think we'll have a question from Mr. Bell's class here.
Hmm.
They are not endangered at all. I don't believe we know how many there are. It's a very common bird. Um, they do have threats to them. Of course, the use of pesticides or poisons for rodents, for example, for mice, um, at farms, for example, it can be very detrimental to them. Can be a huge problem because it can poison them. Other issues that are known. Um, Owls are known to fly into power lines a lot and tall buildings. They see very well at night, but possibly it's the windows that confuse them. So that's another threat. Also, for a long time, farmers thought that they were harmful to their farms and they would kill them, but that's not the case anymore, luckily. Um, so there's actually laws that protect owls, but they're not endangered. They're doing very well. They're one of the most common birds of prey that we have here. Why don't they migrate? Birds or other animals migrate because at some point during the year, they're lacking resources. So they get to a point where there's no food anymore, or that their habitat is just not suitable anymore, because migration takes a lot out of an animal. So they don't do this unless it's necessary. For great horned owls, they have food year round in the areas where they live. So they're able to hunt even in the winter. They're quite prepared for the cold. As I said earlier, they have furry legs and feet. Um, so they've adapted to just sticking around and finding food, whatever the season, and they'd rather stay within their territories to protect them year round. Oof, how high can they fly and also at what speed? How high? Not very high. They stay within the canopy, so they live. They would stay within tree heights, for example. They're not the type of bird that you can look at flying way overhead, like turkey vultures, for example. I don't know exactly how high, but they're not high flyers. They are quick. They do fly quickly. That's necessary in order to catch their food, but they don't fly for long periods of time. As I said, they're not migrators, and they don't, again, cross bodies of water. Um, so they don't they're like sprinters basically. I don't know what speed exactly they can go. I can find that out for you if you wish. And you can send me a word at my email that I had on screen. I could put it back right now, and I will check that out for you. Um, but I don't have that information. I'm sorry. Why don't they make their own nests? Making a nest is a long process. When you talk about an animal or a bird like the barn swallow, for example, it takes them days to build their nest. So it's a process that's long and that takes a lot of energy. These guys, they prefer to just take nests that are already built. It's probably just a question of them finding those nests every year and just being able to just move in. So they're possibly a bit lazy that way, as I was saying. How much do they eat on average? They can eat several mice per night. Again, it depends on what they can find and if it's a year that is a good year for mice and voles and rabbits, or if the food is scarce, then they would eat less. But they can catch quite a few mice at night in one sitting in one night, for example. They do eat quite a bit. How long is their wingspan? Uh, it's 1.2 meters, so a bit more than 1 meter from one end to the other of their feathers from their wings.
Now,
Are
Sarah
they
had a
known to attack
question, and
humans? They are known to attack humans only when humans bother them. So, for example, during the nesting season, when they're at the nest with their chicks, I've known of biologists who study them who cannot approach them without a hard hat and really good gear on their fingers and arms. Because they're quite territorial, they will protect, especially their nests, from intruders. So yes, they will protect if humans approach them. But if you're just walking about, they are not known to attack humans very often. I can possibly think of one case, but it's possibly again because of a nest. So they're not known to be just randomly attacking humans, which is good.
Sarah had a question just a bit earlier there, Annie. Do great horned owls break apart larger prey that they cannot eat whole? And in winter, do they store parts of prey, i.e., let them freeze and then thaw them for later use?
Okay, yeah, I see that question here. Yes, they will break apart larger prey. For example, rabbits, they will break them apart prior to eating them. It's only the smaller mammals that they will just swallow whole. They are not known to store parts of their prey. These guys, they hunt, they will eat, and then they hunt again. They will go only for moving prey. Some people, to photograph them, I believe, they will throw dead mice so they can come and eat them. But the mouse is moving because it's in motion because the person has thrown it. But they will go for motion. They don't go for prey that is just standing there. So they don't store for later at all. I learned somewhere that they incubate frozen parts like eggs. Again, not that I know of. Nothing's impossible. We're still finding out new things about animals every day. Um, I will have to look that up. Send me a word again at my email, and I will try to find that out for you if you want. How can they live in really cold habitats? Um, Owls have quite thick feathers, as I was saying, a few centimeters, almost 10 centimeters thickness of feathers on their bodies. So that in itself does help insulate them against the cold. They have feathers up right until their claws start. Um, and that helps them. They also eat quite a bit, as I was saying, so they do gain a lot of energy by eating fat, by eating meat, and they find food at all times of the year, so they're quite well adapted. They're even adapted again to living in the desert, so that subspecies would possibly have feathers that are not as thick and possibly eat less, for example. But they do quite well right up till the tundra or right up the Rocky Mountains or the Andes in the south. So they're doing very well in those habitats. How big are their eggs? Let me see. Um, I don't know exactly how big are their eggs. I really don't know. I will try to answer that if you would send me an email. That would be great. Um, Owl eggs are typically very, very large. When owlets are born, they don't have any feathers. Um, they look like plucked tiny pigeons, for example. They're not very large, so I wouldn't expect they would be very large. But in terms of exact size, I will find that out as soon as I can. Just send me a word. Oh, cool. You just dissected owl pellets. Yeah, you did exactly what biologists do to study them, to study their diet, to find out exactly what these guys eat. Are great horned owl pellets large? Um, what species pellets did you guys dissect? Do you guys know? Not sure. Um, well, did barn owls, eh? Yeah, barn owls or barred owls. Um, they're probably in the same range of sizes because both barn owls or barred owls are smaller owls than the great horned, but not that much smaller. So it's probably the same size. I've seen some that are maybe 5, 7 centimeters long. It depends on what they've eaten, of course. So it's possibly the same type of thing than you guys dissected.
Annie, I
You guys
just
have other
did a
questions?
quick look
Sorry?
and discovered the
Yeah,
egg size,
yeah.
and there I just flashed it up for you, and that gives you an
Cool.
idea of the size of the egg.
Yeah, so
Okay.
5 to 3, 5, 6 centimeters. Yep, that makes much sense. They're not super large. Can you find out about their flight speed?
I will see what I can come up with quickly for you.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions? There's their lifespan. The eldest known owl, great horned owl, I believe was 28 years old. So we can guess to a max of 30 years old. Yeah, we'll learn more about the monarch. The monarch webinar is wait for it, is on May 11th. So I will be there to talk to you about the monarch. Otherwise, I'll see if there's any more questions here. Yeah, for the people that asked me about their speed and height of flight, you definitely can email me, and I will get that information for you. No problem at all. And if you can think of oh, okay, so 40 miles per hour top speed. I'm a bit young for miles. I'm guessing that means about 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. Hey, yay. So I wasn't that far out. So 60 kilometers per hour, which isn't that quickly, and I don't expect they fly for very long at that speed. They wouldn't need to, but they can they will dive to their prey quite quickly, I expect. Yeah, short bursts. Exactly. All right, so if everyone's okay, I will end this presentation and I will see you all for the monarch butterfly. Bye, guys. No problem. Have a good day.